Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about Shopify and Lightspeed. Looking at Shopify's chart, we're at a very interesting point, which I'll talk about later on, but we can see it broke to a new all-time high of $1,920 Canadian. And if we go over to Lightspeed, we can see that Lightspeed stock almost touched its previous all-time high of just shy of $105 per share. So we're getting to this breaking point for both these companies, and they're playing in the same space as well, which is kind of interesting. So let's dive into why these stocks are both soaring in the past few days. This video was sponsored by Skillshare, but we'll talk about that later on. First off, let's go over to Lightspeed's website and just check out their news. Looking at the news, we don't see anything. Well, the latest news we see is actually on June 7th, where Lightspeed acquired Equid and New Order to unify consumer ecosystem and ignite business creation. If we turn over to the 7th, we can see there wasn't much action on Lightspeed stock. We can see it actually declined for that day, and there was no big move up or down. So it doesn't look like any recent news actually caused Lightspeed to pop. Now turning over to Shopify, I believe there's one piece of news that's moving both these stocks. So this news is Shopify has invested a significant amount in Stripe. We can see that Shopify, as well as Sequoia Capital and others, recently bought about $1 billion of shares in the fintech Stripe, which could go public later on this year or next year. We can see that bids from investors exceeded $4 billion, and Shopify was one of these buyers, but only $1 billion of these bids were filled. And that means that current Stripe shareholders believe the stock has a long way to climb. So there weren't many employees as well as insiders who are willing to let go of the shares. So we can see that the insiders also have strong confidence that Stripe at their current valuation is still undervalued. And they believe that there will be a huge IPO pop once Stripe comes to the market. Now looking at how much Shopify actually owns of Stripe, we can see here in this article, Shopify reportedly invests in Stripe, bringing their total stake to over $350 million. According to the Journal to date, Shopify has invested over $350 million in Stripe. In May, the Globe and Mail reported that in Q1, Shopify invested $200 million in an unidentified private company that is a partner of its ecosystem. And if you guys haven't been following Shopify, Shopify is a major user of Stripe. Shopify is investing in Stripe because they're actually partnering with Stripe and Evolve Bank Trust to build Shopify Balance. This is a business account designed to help merchants to take control of their finances. In early 2020, I talked about Shopify Balance and how this could be a huge thing for Shopify and their merchants. By offering a bank account, Shopify has more data on how merchants control their finances, as well as merchants have more flexibility if they use Shopify Balance versus going to a traditional bank. So it's a win-win there for both. And Shopify using Stripe's technology can offer Shopify Balance at a faster timeline than Shopify actually developing the technology themselves. Now, this article reported that in Q1, Shopify invested $200 million in an unidentified private company that is a partner in its ecosystem. So I had to go look for myself in Shopify's reports, and sure enough, it's right over here. The company made two separate investments totaling $200 million, because this is in thousands of dollars, in a private company that is a partner in its ecosystem, without readily determining fair value, which are currently accounted for using the measurement alternatives. So it seems like Shopify has been making multiple investments because it made two separate investments totaling $200,000. But in this article here, it says that Shopify invested over $350 million in Stripe. So they must have invested in even earlier rounds. And if we look at all of Stripe's equity raises, we can see here the Series H recently put their valuation at $95.6 billion. Now, if Shopify got in before that in Series F or G or even E, they were investing at a $20 to a $36 billion market cap, which means their investment already tripled, if not quadrupled. And now for a bit about today's sponsor, Skillshare. Skillshare offers thousands of inspiring classes for creative and curious people on topics including design, photography, freelancing, and even finance. Classes on Skillshare include a combination of video lessons as well as a class project to help solidify the concepts that you learned. Members get unlimited access to thousands of inspiring classes, and most classes are under 60 minutes long. They're ad-free, and best of all, they get straight to the point. I personally have also posted my first class in Skillshare, so if you're interested, you can check that out, and I'll link that in the description. In the future, I plan to add another course which outlines all my steps for stock market research, and I'll let you guys know when that's available. The first 1,000 people to use this link will get a 1-month free trial of Skillshare to explore your creativity. This article over here also confirms that Shopify has now invested more than $350 million in Stripe over a number of transactions. And this is a person close to Shopify reporting this. Shopify is one of Stripe's largest payment processing customers. And starting this year, Shopify rolled out bank accounts and debit cards to its merchants through a Stripe program, which we talked about earlier. So this is all the big buzz around Shopify right now. And if we look at when this news actually came out, looking at the Wall Street Journal, it came out on the 14th, which you can see down here. Now, if we find this point on the stock chart for Shopify, the 14th coincides with this candle right here. This is where there's a major pop in Shopify stock, and for the next week or so, Shopify stock ran up to its previous all-time highs and surpassed it just a little bit today. However, there's been a pullback. If we look at Shopify's chart zooming out a little bit, we can see that there's a cup shape forming right here. Now, we already see a start of a handle forming with a pullback happening today. If we see some more pullback, maybe to about $1,600 per share, and then we see a shoot up, then we know a cup and handle has formed and there's bullishness towards Shopify stock going forwards. So if we do see a handle form and it breaks past its previous all-time highs, that's a signal to investors to buy in heavily, as the stock will have a lot of forward momentum propelling it to new all-time highs. Now, going over to a chart on TradingView, I've actually pulled up Shopify stock versus Lightspeed stock as a percentage gain here. And we can see that Shopify and Lightspeed were trading pretty much in step for the past couple of months since February. You can see right over here, Shopify stock was a little bit flat, and so is Lightspeed's. And as soon as Shopify broke out, Lightspeed also broke out to the upside here. And you can see if we're just watching this pattern, it traces almost perfectly across the two stocks. If we were to analyze this chart really closely, we can see that Shopify is a little bit of a leading indicator for Lightspeed. So as you can see here, Shopify went on a run while Lightspeed was flat, and then Lightspeed had its own pop. Then Shopify proceeded to drop, and then Lightspeed dropped a little bit after Shopify, hitting a bottom over here. And then it bounced back up, and then so on. And we can see here the day that Shopify popped, Lightspeed had maybe a little mini pop, but pulled back the day afterwards before breaking out to almost new all-time highs. We're going to have to see what's going forwards in the next days to come. Perhaps if Shopify does form a cup and handle, Lightspeed will also form a cup and handle as well and break to the upside if Shopify does as well. Oftentimes, we can see that companies that are in the same sort of business sector will play off of each other's momentum. So like I said earlier, Lightspeed didn't have any news in the past couple of weeks, but Shopify had some exciting news about a Stripe investment, which sent both shares to the upside like we saw here. Anyways, that's all I wanted to talk about in this episode today. If you guys enjoyed this quick update on Lightspeed and Shopify and why both these stocks are moving to the upside, leave a like down below. If you guys want to get my buy and sell alerts and want to know when I'm buying more Shopify or when I'm buying more Lightspeed in real time, be sure to check out the Patreon link down below. I'm going to throw up 2 videos on the screen. If you're there, I'll see you there. If not, keep up the grind and have a great day.